Joining us now to get his thoughts, E.W.Jackson, Bishop E.W.Jackson of Chesapeake, my neighbor, ran for lieutenant governor in 2013, now the president of STAND, was just on Fox and Friends News. And by the way, for our listeners out there, put this down, circle Wednesday, July 1st on your calendar, because E.W.Jackson will be guest hosting the entire John Fredericks Show, 6 to 10 a.m. Wednesday. That is going to be Wednesday, July 1st. E.W. Jackson as our guest host. Bishop Jackson, good to have you with us. What do you make of
John,
this?
thank you. Those are big shoes to fill, but I'll do my best.
So you'll be fine.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you so much. What is your reaction to what happened here, E.W.?
I tell you, John, it is a tragedy of unspeakable proportions. It's unthinkable what has happened. And my church was in prayer this morning at 6 a.m. for the people of Charleston, for the people of that church, for that pastor's family, and the family members of those people who have been tragically murdered. So that's the first thing. Obviously, we just need to unite in trying to be of whatever spiritual and moral support we can be for the people who are victims. But the second thing is, it just seems to me that before we jump to conclusions about this being some sort of racial hate crime, we need to consider that this man didn't go to a basketball court where he probably would have found plenty of black people playing basketball at an outside court somewhere in a black community. He didn't go to a bar. He didn't go to a bowling alley. He went to a church. And it does make me wonder, John, whether this growing hostility and antipathy to Christianity and to what it stands for, the biblical worldview about sexual morality and other things, is not sort of creating a climate of hostility against Christian people. Now, I don't know that that's what motivated this man, but it certainly comes to mind given the kinds of things that have been happening around the country lately. And the third thing I would say is this, and I'm going to be saying this, John, nationally on every form I can. People in church need to arm themselves. I'm not saying turn the church into a armed camp. All I'm saying is there needs to be some people in the church who are prepared to defend those innocent women, children, men who are there to do nothing but worship and come under a vicious attack like this. Obviously, there apparently wasn't anybody in this church. That's not a criticism. Why would they be? But I think we're coming into a new day, John, where churches are going to have to consider security measures.
Well, here's the reality, Bishop Jackson. Had somebody been armed in there, maybe 9 people wouldn't be dead. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe not any, but certainly there would be a chance of not 9 if somebody had a concealed weapon and was able to just open fire on this guy. But, one of the things we were saying, we know, Bishop, we know within the next 24 hours this thing is going to be politicized, right? We know that. Al Sharpton's is going to get down there. They're going to be talking about, you know what, we need to restrict the usage of guns. We need to get guns off the streets. And there's going to be race baiting. All that's going to go on. At the end of the day, though, you hit the nail on the head. If somebody in there was armed, maybe this wouldn't have been this tragic. Just share with us, we all are bracing ourselves for the Al Sharpton narrative that's coming down the pike. How should people react to that? Because we can already predict what it is.
They should react, John, by portraying Al Sharpton for what he is. He is a race hustler. He is a manipulator. He is a person who uses the issue of race to enrich himself financially and otherwise. And other than that, Al Sharpton has no relevance whatsoever. In fact, I just learned that the family of that young man who was killed by that police officer, same town, by the way, the family of that young man asked Al Sharpton not to come to participate in anything regarding his death, even though this officer has been charged with murder. But the family told Al Sharpton, no, thank you, we don't need you. I wish that all the people of Charleston would say to Al Sharpton, please don't come into our city. You have nothing to offer that we're interested in.
Just go away, because it's not going to solve anything. EW, a lot of our callers,
he goes there to enrich himself. He's not going to solve any problem.
Exactly. Bishop Jackson, a lot of our callers earlier were saying what's really the matter with America right now is the systematic taking out of God in almost every facet of government, everything we do. Even though the country was created with God in it, it's like every day we get up, there's something else. You know, it started way back with the war on Christmas, and now it's just gone on to that. I mean, you have to start to look at this in perspective and say, you know, if you continue to take God out of everything and you celebrate basically things that are, you know, outside the Bible, outside the norm, etc. I mean, is there a real moral deprivation that's going on right now in the United States?
Well, there is, John, and I would take it a step further. I would say our founding fathers made clear that they did not believe it was possible for a constitutional republic to survive and thrive without a moral and religious people. Because freedom requires self-restraint. Freedom requires an inner moral framework that prohibits you from doing things without having the government tell you you shouldn't do them. What we're having now is people trying to redefine, fundamentally transform, remember those words of the president, fundamentally transform the country into something that was never intended to be. And when they do that, they're going to undermine our Constitution and undermine our whole way of life. The very things that made America the greatest nation on earth are the things that they're trying to take away from us. And I tell you, it's the height of foolishness, John, and we're going to fight it tooth and nail every step of the way to make sure that our country remains the constitutional republic where our rights and freedoms are centered not in government but in God.
E.W., what is the catalyst of this war on God in America?
Well, people want to do what they want to do, John. That's the bottom line. And, you know, look, God sets forth moral rules and guidelines for us. And frankly, they get in the way. Look, I wasn't always a minister. I wasn't always a practicing Christian. And I did things that were outside the realm of appropriate morality.
Right.
And during that time, I didn't want anybody to tell me, well, wait a minute, that's wrong. You know, look, I'm doing my thing. But God tells us when we're wrong. He loves us no matter what, but he tells us we're wrong. And people don't want to hear that. And I think that's the bottom line. They don't want to be told that sex outside marriage is wrong. They don't want to be told that lying is wrong. They don't want to be told that exploiting people. Look, the government doesn't want to be told that taking money from you and me to give to somebody else because the government thinks they need to redistribute our wealth and our money. They don't want to be told that that's morally wrong because they think they're on their moral high horse and looking out for people. So that's the bottom line. I think that's why people want to just sort of kick God out of the equation.
Let me just ask you one other thing, and I know we're short on time, Bishop Jackson, but we were talking about this for about 2 weeks. You know, the gay lobby in the United States is wielding a tremendous amount of power and influence now. Gays represent about 1% of America. The atheists are now wielding an inordinate amount of power. They represent about 1% of America. How does such tiny minorities of representation, it's minuscule, get such unbelievable political clout?
Well, I think the answer to that, John, is actually fairly simple, and it's this. It is because their values are more likely embraced by the media, by the entertainment culture, and by the university and higher education system of our country. So in other words, those are the people who will amplify the whole gay rights movement. They will amplify atheism. They will amplify. I mean, you probably heard that one school has put out a list of things you should not say. You should not call America a land of opportunity because that's a racist thing to say because you may be insulting people who maybe aren't experiencing those opportunities. I mean, that's what people are being taught in our universities. So that's why their power is so magnified. We've got these institutions that help amplify their voices.
You know, I'm just going to end with this. My son, Jojo, 10 years old, plays on a travel baseball team, the Bombers. And Sunday, one of our 10-year-old pitchers, young fellow's name was Cade Cox, and he got hit in the ear with a line drive and went down and just collapsed on the mound. 10 years old, and I would assume many of us were praying at that moment. I mean, I wasn't praying to the great God of Medicaid expansion or to Al Sharpton or to government bureaucrats or to the Hollywood elites. I mean, I was praying in that moment that our little player was all right, to God. I just can't, for the life of me, when something goes down, we all do the same thing. We look up to heaven and ask for hope. It's befuddling to me how we have gotten in this mess.
Well, there's no accounting for the wickedness of the human heart. And there are some people, we know the Bible tells this story, there's some people, no matter how the Bible, in fact, God says, all day long have I stretched out my hands toward disobedient and contradicting people. God loves people. He loves them, sinners, saints, good, bad. He loves us, and he wants to help us. He wants to be a part of our lives. But people decide that they are better off without him, that they're going to do their thing, their way. And I think, individuals have the right to do that, and I will fight for their right to do that, but I don't want our country to reflect that kind of mindset. And unfortunately, that's the direction in which we're moving, John. But we're going to keep fighting to see to it that the country is rooted and grounded on the foundational principles that made America the greatest nation on earth.
Well, we're going to keep fighting until the end of time, and we want to thank. We're out of time. We want to thank Bishop E.W.Jackson for being with us today. He's got a lot of media to do. E.W., thanks for being with us. By the way, E.W.Jackson will be the guest host of the John Fredericks Show on Wednesday, July 1st, 6 to 10 a.m. So tune him in then. E.W., thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John. God bless you.